Welcome to Come and See, your podcast for finding truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by All for Jesus Living Waters Ministry. With host and founder Richard Case and co-host and retreat leader Kathy Ricconi. Today is our special guest day, where we will hear from a friend of the ministry who will share their insight and stories on truth in this chaotic world. And now your host, Richard Case.
Well, good morning, Kathy.
Good morning.
This is our first day back from what I think everybody, at least that was associated with us, knew that our daughter Michelle had passed away and gone to be with Jesus, and we've had a couple of tough weeks processing that through with her, and then seeing the finality of that and her go to be in his arms, and just it's for a parent, Linda and I, to go through that. A lot of it's not understandable. It's how come and why not, and but I think today this is what we call Guest Thursday, and our guest for us, you and I, are going to give a tribute to Michelle,
Yes.
and share a little bit about what happened and some of the wonderful things that God has done through it all. Because the big question, and this is always, there's always two questions everybody has, and I can appreciate these two questions even more deeply now.
Right.
One is my relative, is my friend, is the person I know, do we know that she's going to heaven to be with God? That's a big question.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you don't really know, and
Right.
we're actually sharing, some people that came to the funeral said, well, we've been to other funerals, and it's pretty morose, because they don't even talk. These are people that that are not believers at all. They don't even talk about God, and
Right.
there's no hope
What hope would
that
there be?
they
right?
represent of eternal life, other than they lived a good life, but that was it. And they don't know what's going to happen next. But so that number one is do we know, and then two is why now?
Right.
Particularly when somebody who is younger, if it would have been Linda or me, it's like, well, you had a really
Right.
nice life.
But parents outliving their children
Yeah, and
raises that question.
eventually,
so much.
eventually everybody dies, and it could be your time. And if Linda and I, we've actually talked about that. If God took us now, any of us now, we would want everybody to rejoice, because we had a grand life and a full life, But when it's what we think premature is why now, and couldn't you do something different?
Right.
So that's kind of the context of our process here. So Michelle had a neurological event back in March and April of 2022 called Guillain-Barré, and it's a rare thing that the autoimmune system basically goes haywire, and it attacks the body.
Attacks itself.
Itself, because it views what's going on in the body as basically a virus or a disease, and they're trying to take care of it. And actually what it does is it separates the neurological ability of the brain down to the motor skills and the legs, and there's a lot of pain with that and a lot of tingling with that, and so she had that. She was in the hospital, had to go to rehab just to get to a place where she could walk me with a walker,
Right. Even with a walker, right?
and go back and forth to take care of herself, the bathroom and stuff, and so her house, by the way, and you've been there, is all stairs.
Right.
So she couldn't
She couldn't stay there.
She couldn't go there. She had to come to our house, and so she was in our house, which is, we have one level that's flat and a bedroom that's there, and a bathroom that she could get to. And then Linda she had 2 dogs, and Linda, I helped out a little bit, but Linda took care of the 2 dogs, and it was, it was heavy. It was difficult. So, seemed like she was getting a little bit better. She made a few poor choices of things that certain things that she wasn't supposed to eat and do, and she still did it, even though we were trying to monitor it. And because she's an adult, we weren't controlling her. One of the things the doctor said is
probably not recognizing the gravity of her choices at that point.
Is do not drink any alcohol at all, because it's really harmful right now, because your autoimmune system is haywire, and you're gonna cause yourself real damage if you do that. And she said she wasn't going to do it, but she wound up doing it, and she made some lousy choices. And it wasn't the cause of it, but her organs started to fail because of it, and she goes back in the hospital. And it's pretty severe. I mean, she's really out of it, And so the doctors, say, we're going to try a variety of things, but we're not sure. So they do, and they come and tell us that, there is a cure for this, but the cure, first of all, is going to take a while, and her body isn't going to last that long. And if we did something immediately on something like kidney dialysis, it all by itself would kill her. So we're in no man's land, and if she had time, she could come back to normal. But she doesn't have time, and the things that we would do would actually accelerate her. There's nothing we can do.
Right.
They put her in. She's in the hospital, and they put her in what was called a hospice scenario. That's
which is
where
really keeping them comfortable. Correct?
Yeah, they were keeping comfortable, and she's in the hospital, so she's not moved to some other place. She's in that place where she was in the hospital. But they said she's in a hospice now scenario, and we're not going to give her any more liquid. We're not going to give her any more nutrition. We're going to take everything away. The only thing we'll give her is pain medicine if she needs it. So on the 18th, this is, let's see, it would be September 18th. It's a Sunday. And they told us she's not a candidate for these solutions, so you better get ready. So I email people, particularly here in Colorado. We have an inner circle, a small group, and they came. Could you come and be with us? Yeah. So Monica Jones comes, and she drives over, walks in, and I was there, by the way, the whole week. Slept every night with her in the bedroom in the hospital with it.
In the hospital room, right?
Linda would come back and forth, and when Linda came, she would play worship music, pray, and we'd read scripture to her.
Right.
And they said she could hear, and that kind of stuff. And she was a little bit in and out. On Sunday, this is the 18th. The doctor said, you really need to, while she's lucid, you need to get a power of attorney medically. So the doctor comes in, asks Michelle questions. Yes, I understand. Are you okay with your dad being the power of attorney? Yes. And then they had filled out the form, but I had to take her hand and write her name on it. And then they did a proxy anyway and said on top of that. So now I've got power of attorney. So Monica was there, and we prayed. The three of us prayed. Father, what do you got to say about this? Because I still believe in healing.
Right.
And supernatural, to me, isn't that difficult for God. So it wasn't like, God, would you? Or do I have enough faith to believe it? We just knew, we've learned something, and we'll talk about this when we get into our prayer section coming up here, is it's always a pure question. With a heart to receive it, and that is what do you have to say about this?
Right.
And that was our question. In essence, what's your will here? it wasn't that, well, the doctor said she's all right. In my mind, I still didn't have that as, oh yeah,
Right.
sure, that's absolutely.
You defer to what God tells you.
I didn't think that. I really thought differently, a little bit differently. So we're praying. Michelle wakes up, and she kind of sits up, and she says, "I assent." And I said, "What?" I assent. You assent. I assent. What do you assent to? I assent. I said, so you consent to the power of attorney that we just did? No. I assent. What do you assent to? I assent. So I'm like, okay, what is this? And I hear God speaking to me, Christ speaking to me, saying, she's assenting to me. I have asked her, do you assent to me taking you home? And it was, as we processed it, it wasn't, what do you want? It wasn't, would you like to stay? It's, I'm bringing you home. Do you assent? And she says, I assent. I said, so you're assenting to Jesus taking you home? Yes. I said, was he here and did he ask you? Yes. Have you seen him? Yes. Do you see angels? Yes. Are you afraid? No.
How beautiful.
So you're ready to go? Yes, I'm ready to go. And so he said his will is to take you home. Yes. And you're okay with it? Yes. She confirmed that he asked her, and she I think, and what I was processing with God is, he said, I purposely used that word assent for ascending, one, and two is that she would have never used that word. She would have said,
caused you to question more.
She would have said, I agree, or
right.
I want to. Is she just kept repeating that word because he evidently asked her, so you assent to this, and she just, yes, I do, and so she did, and then she really, within another hour, she went into a coma and never woke up.
Right.
We never really talked to her again, so to speak. That was the last word she said. Now you said, and this is confirming, that you had a dream about this. Share a little bit about that, because that was another confirmation of this, and then I'll tell more about what else was confirmed.
So I'll do my best to share it without crying. But interestingly enough, the dream I had is recorded in my journal the morning of September 18th, which means I had it the night of the 17th. And in the dream, I am climbing up a ladder. I'm wearing a pair of shoes that is very large, and I'm climbing up a ladder, and one of my legs is not able to lift, so I'm lifting it up each rung. And when I get to the top, to the room that we're at, I sit down and I take the shoes off, and I begin to see, if you can picture thick padded carpet, like, really deep carpet, and the shoes begins to dig in deep, press in deep, like leaving a mark, and is dragged across the floor. And I'm watching it, and someone else is in the room with me. I'm watching it drag across the floor, and I'm struggling. I'm calling out Jesus's name over and over because I'm assuming the enemy is taking it. And then I walk over, the person standing next to me is like, no, it's okay. And I walk over to where the shoe landed, and I pull it back, and the shoes are then a complete pair, completely new, with new laces and new socks next to them. And I looked at the person and I'm like, why, what is this all about? I've been praying for so long. What is this? And he said, that just means your prayers were effective. So then for the next couple of days, I'm processing with God, what in the world? This was clearly a prophetic dream of some sort. What exactly was it? I didn't yet have this information on Michelle being in the hospice situation. And God then told me in the middle of the night, one night, woke up and he said, this dream was Michelle. And that you have been praying for a long time because of the friendship. Been praying for a long time for her. And so you do have this tie to her. And you assumed the enemy was taking her. And it wasn't the enemy taking her at all. It was me bringing her home to be new and so much more.
Yeah.
And she is complete and made new now in this place. And that was what you were really praying for. So it was a sweet, sweet, tender dream, honestly.
Yeah.
And he could continue to remind me he brought her home.
Yes.
She is his bride. She is now with her true groom.
Yeah.
In the fullness of what he had for her.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's another, so Tuesday, Linda was there, and Lee Bogart came up, and they were just, again, worship music, and a song came on. Linda's, I think she's got the Spotify thing that she listens to and was playing, and a wedding song came on. And it's like her and Lee said, oh, you know what? We need to not think of a funeral. This is going to be Michelle's wedding celebration. And they said, God, is that correct? And right at that moment, it was a cloudy day, which typically in Colorado, an overcast day isn't complete, but this was complete overcast. Right at that moment, are you having a wedding celebration? The cloud opens up, and a light shines, a bright light shines, and Linda saw it, took a picture of it, and then the light came right on Michelle's body in the bed, right through the window. It was like a luminescent light. Yes, she's actually going to her wedding. She's my bride, and she's experiencing a wedding, and she's coming home for that wedding, and I'm preparing a place for her to be receiving that. So I get there later that day, and Linda says, "Hey, I took a picture of this," and she describes it, and she shows me the picture, and the picture where the light was, there's an angel. And you can see it. I mean, it's clear as a bell that the light is coming from that angel, and it's like, yes, okay. So then that was Tuesday. And Wednesday, and every day, her vitals don't change at all. Not one iota. Wednesday, and again, I stay overnight. The first thing that happens in the morning is they come and take her vitals, and the doctor comes. And Wednesday morning, the vitals, no change. And the doctor says, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. But it's going to happen any moment now. Okay. So I go and I start talking to the father. I said, okay, you're taking her home. We're receiving that. Why is this taking long? And he says because by the way, the doctor had said maybe it's because she has a strong heart. And so I talked to God about that, and why is it taking so long? And he said, well, what the doctor says, she's got a strong heart. He said, do you understand that? No. He said, yeah, physically she's got a strong heart, but it's all about her heart has always been good. She has a good heart. I see the good heart. I've always seen the good heart. And
Oh, that's so beautiful.
The delay isn't for her because she's completely at peace and has no pain.
Mm-hmm.
It's just for you.
Wow.
What do you mean? He says, you haven't let her go. And he said, you're angry. You're angry at lots of different levels, but one thing is you're angry at her because you think if. And I don't want you thinking that way. I want you to see what I see.
Right.
Is I love her to such a level that this is best, literally best and none better. Mm-hmm. And it's because she's always had a good heart. She's always had a generous heart. She's always had a heart, for life. And she's actually going to a much better place where that heart is going to be, fulfilled. So, interesting enough, Rich, you and Linda and your family are the ones preventing this.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second. We haven't shared on some of these things that we prayed through. Linda had sent me a text in the middle of this, and one of the texts she did say was, I don't understand why it's going so slow, why she's still here at this point because of the ascent.
That's right.
And when I asked God, his response to me was, I'm tending hearts. One phrase, I'm tending hearts.
Yeah, tending our hearts. It was our hearts. And then he said, by the way, a couple things. He said, one is, I'm asking you and your wife and your family, I don't want you even going to if only, and what could you have done differently?
Right.
Because he said a lot of parents go into that place of, if I'd have done this, maybe this wouldn't, he said, don't even think about it.
Right.
I don't even want you going there 1 second at all. I don't want you going backwards at all in any way. And it has nothing to do with any choices that you made, what you did or didn't do. Mm-hmm. This was her place in life, and this is her time. And then two is that he said, you've taught covenant. What do you teach about it? I said, it's forever. He said, do you understand what you just said? No. It means that while we're living, no. He said, it's forever. Mm-hmm. He said, the covenant is life all by itself. It was always intended with Adam and Eve. It's always going to be forever. The covenant lasts into eternity. And when you come here, you're blessed and you become a blessing. And Michelle is going to enter into the fullness of the covenant into eternity, and she's blessed and she's going to be a blessing. And I want you to teach it a little bit deeper than you've been teaching it. And by the way, he said eternity. He says eternity is a long time. He said this is just a moment. It's just a moment. Understand eternity, understand covenant, and you have to come to a place where you release it. And I'm asking you to release her to me. And you can rejoice at that. I know it's going to be hard for you. And you're going to go through grief, and you're going to go through loss, and you're going to go through relationship issues that you've had with her and remembrances. But, it's going to be spectacular. So Linda and I and our family, we actually got together, prayed about it, and we all talked about anger and frustration and only and if, we processed all that through. So Sunday, this is on the 25th, I stayed overnight. The doctor, they come in, do the vitals. The vitals got better. I mean, way better. And he walks in, and I said, Doc. He said, I can tell you, Rich, I've never, ever, ever, ever seen this in my history of being a doctor, of any recording. He said, I worked in a hospice. He said, there's no way that vitals get better. He said, but hers are better. And they're way better today.
Wow.
So I said, is it possible that she's getting healed? And he said, well, first of all, I believe it's possible. I don't think so. But I tell you what, let me run some chemistry. I'll run the blood test, and then we'll come back and let's see. And if she is, we'll get stuff going.
Right.
So they come in, take the blood. An hour and a half later, he walks in. He just says, "I'm so sorry, but no. Her chemistries are now really, really bad. Her vitals are fine,
Right.
but her chemistries are at a point now where it wouldn't surprise me if she goes today or tonight.
Right.
And she's going to die, interesting enough, of heart failure, only because of the stress on the whole system, and not because of not having nutrition or none of that.
Right.
And so, okay. So then I talked to God. Okay, he says her vitals are better because, think about, Rich, I could have healed her with no trouble. This isn't even, she's so far down the path that it's not even, no. He said, I could have healed her just like that. And you know it now.
Right.
You know it now. But I'm not. I'm taking her home. She's coming home. And this is my will. And then that night, she passed. So we have, we had already obviously started working on things, but we had the funeral October the 7th, Friday.
Right.
It was magnificent. It was truly a celebration. I mean, Linda did the reception in a way as if it was a wedding reception, and we had a slideshow of her life. She had her favorite things there. Everybody was given, testimony. We had Monica Jones share about the ascent, the confirmation. Jake Beckel, who's a business partner of mine, and Michelle ran our business. He gave her great honor and excitement, for the relationship that he had with her, he and Mary. Then Peter shared about his life with her, and then Shara, his wife, they were kind of like sisters. And then Aiden gave the most magnificent. He probably spoke for 20 minutes or so, and he just gave the gospel, and it was just a beautiful statement of truth and life and what she meant to him and all that. It was beautiful. So we then go to the reception. And her neighbor comes up and says, I have to show you something. Okay, what? He says, a month ago, I text Michelle. They had a dog.
Oh, this is the neighbor with the dog. I actually spoke with him.
Well, no, this is a different one.
Oh,
this is a different neighbor.
Okay.
that had a dog. And Samson was this dog's pal. The dog died a year and a half ago.
Okay.
Samson, every morning, because Michelle would let him out because there was nobody out to complain about him not being on a leash.
Right.
Every morning at 5 o'clock, he went to that house and he dropped a ball on their porch. And of course, he recycled them, so he would bring another one, take that one, and hide it. He did it for a year and a half. Every day.
Sweet.
But they were very good friends with Michelle. And he says, a month ago, I text Michelle, how's it going? He shows Linda and I the text. Michelle texts him back. She says, I'm permanently going home October the 7th.
Wow.
And she was writing it thinking I'm going, back home. But she used the word, I'm permanently going home.
Permanently.
October the 7th, that was the day of the funeral. And she'd already obviously gone, but that was a permanent, ending for us.
Wow.
And it was something that, God had kind of, I don't know how deep she knew that or what she thought about it, but it was confirmation that this whole thing is ordained,
Right.
and you can trust it. So Michelle's life, particularly when we, the one thing that I did notice, because I had to go through the slides of when she was a kid to get ready for the celebration, and the one thing about Michelle, particularly when she was younger, was she was really, really funny, and she was super ambitious, risk taker, creative, and you could see it in the pictures. Her facial expression and all that. And God, as I was going through that, He said, Michelle's got her funny back.
Oh, sweet.
She's got her funny back, and she's living life to the full. Rejoice. Yes, it's my will. You received it. It's my will. I'm glad you didn't pray against it. I'm glad that you didn't get upset about it. I mean, other than just the grief of it.
Right.
But she's in a grand place. She's having a great time. And it won't be but a moment. And you'll be seeing her again. And so we rejoice at that. So, if anybody listening, would want to, comment about anything that you knew about Michelle or want to send it in. We've had lots of stories, lots of notices of things, and anything you'd like to say to us, we'd love to receive us. You can, put it at questions at afgministry.com. Put it on the YouTube. We'd love to hear it and talk about it. But we give great honor to a life well lived, and we rejoice at the life we had with her. The good news is we do know where she's going.
Yeah.
And we're not wondering how come now.
Right.
And God answered those two questions for us. So we have confirmation, and we have a lot of hope, and it really drives you into the love of God even deeper and deeper and deeper, because it's way, way, way so much bigger than we can imagine. And yes, it's lost to us, and we're grieving through it, and there's moments where it really whacks you. But and the neat thing for us is we have all these people around us, and all they're doing is just there. They're just there.
Right.
There's not a whole lot to say. We're just with you, and we know that we know that we know, just like you did with your dream, is this was God's will.
Right.
We were with you on that, and we will rejoice together. So, Father, I do just praise you for who you are. I praise you for the life that you gave our family, that you gave Michelle, that you gave us the ability to hear your voice and to know the answers to these questions. And we can know that it's confirmed. We can rejoice at that beauty of life that's there, and know it's eternal, and the covenant is eternal, and we get to participate in it and be with her in eternity. And what a joy that's going to be. And we look forward to that while we mourn the loss of what we no longer have at the moment. And so we praise you and thank you in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for sharing from such an authentic place. And I just know we all love Michelle, love you guys, and are prayerfully covering you guys in the midst of this, and knowing God is going to meet you every step of this grief.
Yes.
And walk you through it.
Yep.
So thanks for sharing.
Yep. All right. Thank you. And we'll see you guys next week.
Great.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of Come and See, your podcast for truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by All for Jesus Living Waters Ministry. Send us your questions and comments, and tune in tomorrow for more answers to your personal questions about living life in God's truth. Remember, God's will is best and none better. His truth brings peace in this world of chaos.